Well, fact checkers have been busy having a little bit of a field day with President Biden's State of the Union address. The commander-in-chief accused of exaggerating his record and making some key contradictions like these.
Here at home, inflation is coming down. Here at home, gas prices are down $1.50 from their peak. Food inflation is coming down, not fast enough, but coming down. Inflation has fallen every month for the last 6 months, while take-home pay has gone up.
The president getting knocked for all of those claims. Biden also got a real-time fact check over this attack.
Some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond.
Then Biden drawing some laughs for the wrong reason when talking about getting tough with oil companies.
I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade. And that's going to exceed and beyond that. We're going to need it.
And despite getting called out on the falsehood, some Democrats and the media giving the president's speech a very glowing review.
I think this was the best speech I have ever heard him deliver.
It was fun. And he seemed to be getting a lot of fun out of people heckling him and the feedback that he was getting.
You actually felt like the union is strong.
It was delivered with a lot of energy and a lot of pace.
He was a little rowdy, right? He was a little fun.
He was engaged and enjoying the exchange. It felt like the British Parliament.
Didn't you think he was sort of Mr. Smooth?
We were all thrilled last night. Wasn't the president just great?
What I loved about the speech, it was true Joe Biden.
I thought it was so masterful.
I need a hype squad like that. Jesse, what did you think?
Yeah. It sounded like an ultra MAGA speech to me. He plagiarized the entire Trump platform. If the guy had blonde hair and a tan, I thought Trump would have still been president if you listened to it. The core message was that we've shipped all of these jobs and factories overseas, and I'm going to be the one bringing them back. Well, he doesn't say anything about that he was vice president and senator when they were shipping the jobs over there, but that's fine. And then he says, I'm going to get tough with big tech. And I'm going to get tough with big pharma. And we're going to crack down on fentanyl pouring over the border. Okay. We've been saying that for a long time, Joe. And then he says we're going to get tough on China. And this is a blue-collar boom. This is literally exactly what Trump said during his State of the Union. And then he even used the forgotten man analogy. He said, a lot of you feel forgotten, these hollowed out old construction sites in these poor towns. Come on. The best part was when he went full populist and said he was going to get rid of these junk fees, these resort fees for places that aren't a resort, or airlines that treat your children like baggage. And then he was going to lock up people that stole COVID money. Well, go over to Chicago because they took the money and gave each other bonuses. I'm not really upset with how people were screaming and yelling. I'm not a big decorum guy, especially after the fact that the last president, they spied on his campaign, framed him to be a traitor, and then leaked his taxes. So if someone whoops and hollers and gets boisterous, no big deal. It wasn't well delivered. He's a terrible speaker, but I did feel the unifying message. America's a great place, optimistic. I just don't know if Joe is the guy to deliver on all those messages that he plagiarized.
Okay, and this is the call for that they wanted me to play. President Biden was reflecting on his speech today. Listen here.
Many of you have seen we've had a spirited debate last night with my Republican friend. My Republican friends they seem shocked when I raised the plans of some of their members and their caucus to cut Social Security. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and others stood up and said, liar, liar. Reminds me of liar, liar, house on fire, yeah.
Yeah.
What
do you think?
Well, first, I just to comment on that media montage. being a pet owner. They're like a pet owner whose dog, finally, is potty trained outside, and I decided to go, oh, look what he did. Oh, he's such a good little boy.
Yeah.
The expectations are so low for Joe. If he can just make it to the podium without falling over or shaking hands with an invisible goblin, that's like a huge success. And you could just tell that they were so happy and so relieved. I don't think it's unreasonable at all to heckle someone who smears you. And I think this might have been a really decent intervention for Joe, because all he does is smear people, right? He smeared gun owners, border agents with the whip, Trump voters, the police, so somebody has to call him out. And if you're in a place where somebody's actually saying, it's like imagine a Republican president saying, you Democrats want to kill children with a dangerous vaccine. That's almost on the same extreme of saying, like, we want to take money from the elderly and let them die alone, in poverty. Because that's what he's saying. So it's like, of course you have to stand up because it's about you. And I think that, because these speeches are so fake, it's so artificial, the one real thing is the heckling. It's an injection of reality. It's people at home going, oh, you are full of crap. That never happened. So you got to have somebody that you have to have. I'm not even thinking about the content of the heckling itself, but that I do think, decorum is you don't keep decorum if somebody is smearing you. You just go right at it, right? Don't you agree? I know, Dana.
I mean, I'm a decorum person.
You are.
You know.
You are. But
me.
what if I smeared you, Dana?
Well, that
what if
happens.
I said
Like
what if I said
yesterday.
Dana doesn't eat salad with a fork?
That wouldn't
Once.
be a smear.
It happened once.
That'd be the truth.
I mean, I think but you make a good point. Maybe you're at a point now where the country is saying we want to have real-time reaction like we do on this.
Yes, and I think that this is an old thing.
As long as everyone's cool with it going both ways.
Yes.
Right? Because that is now, and if that's going to be the way it's going to be.
I always go
these
both
speeches
ways.
are going to be really long. Judge Jeanine, what do you think?
Well, when he started with the forgotten man, that's when I started thinking about President Trump. Okay, it was like right from the beginning. But there's a couple of points that I want to make. Number one, when he criticized the Republicans and he started by saying many, and then he stopped himself. And he said some Republicans want to stop Social Security and Medicare. And they booed him. Now, I got to tell you something. I am so sick and tired of hearing the Democrats say it. Karine Jean-Pierre say it. The president saying it. One Republican senator apparently said it, and now they're going to broad brush everyone. And at that point, I don't blame them. They had to take a position. I don't like that it wasn't as proper as it might have been. But at that point, there are so many people watching this speech, they needed to hear that they are not in favor of this and stop gaslighting us, stop lying. Now, the other thing that really made me crazy was when Biden started talking about Tyree Nichols and, how sad and how terrible that was. And we all agree with that. But then he immediately went into racism and the talk that you have to have if you have a brown or a black child. I mean, he just intertwined the two, the death of Tyree by 5 black police officers, and then he goes to racism. And the other thing that when he started talking about big oil, and he says, how dare big oil make these profits and use the record profit to buy back their own stock, rewarding the CEOs and shareholders. We are either a capitalist country or we are not. And for him to say they shouldn't be doing that is outrageous. And he forgets that he came into office saying, I'm going to shut down the fossil fuel industry. I'm canceling the pipeline. I'm not going to sign new drilling leases. And then he says, how dare you? And by the way, I checked the prepared speech with the actual speech. He apparently, unless I'm wrong, he didn't plan on saying we need another decade, at least 10 more years of gas and oil and beyond. That he just ad-libbed himself, which was a good thing. So there are places where if you want to talk bipartisanship, hey, let's talk about it. We're not cutting Social Security or Medicare, and you don't want to either. We need big oil, and apparently you say you want it for another 10 years. And finally, fentanyl. How dare you say that your response to fentanyl is to use more drug detection machines? You want to join with the Congress? You talk about China and you talk about the border when you talk about fentanyl. That's how you bring America together.
Harold, do the Democrats feel pretty good today? What are you hearing from all your sources?
Well, I think Democrats do feel good. First, it's good to be back. It's good to be around the table as opposed to on the camera. I think one of the things, just reacting, but Democrats feel good about it. And I think if you look at the polling, I think a majority of the country feels good about it, which leads to this point. You know, the everyday rhetoric of this president, a good friend of mine was telling me today, and if you look at every president, the last 4 or 5 we had, with the exception of President Trump, and this is a compliment to President Trump, their everyday rhetoric was oftentimes a little more pugnacious from the standpoint that the media would oftentimes splice and dice a little bit what they wanted us to hear them say, whereas President Trump would walk out the White House and he would give that press conference himself, and he was oftentimes very upbeat and very positive. People may have reacted to him, but he was always upbeat and positive. This speech here is really a time when everybody in the country gets to see the president. And he normally, whomever the president is, he's always cordial. He's always conciliatory. He always projects unity and projects that we have to find ways to work together. No president ever comes before the country and says that the union is in disarray. I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm going to continue to be that way. No, they come across the way the president came across last night. They get a little partisan, but it's not totally that way. So it's good that people see him that way. The appropriation of some of these languages, remember, let's make America great again with President Reagan. Let's make America great again. And the forgotten man is FDR. So I think it's a tradition. I like the fact that presidents build on that tradition, always ensuring that at the core of this American experiment is to ensure that the very least and last, regardless of race, has an opportunity to be pushed up. So I was pleased to hear the president say that. I shared last night what I was looking for most, and I shared it on the show, and I thought your answer last night, Jesse, on the 5 around China was right. There should be consequences. I thought the president would have taken a moment last night to lay out the Biden doctrine on China. For a whole variety of reasons. The metaphor with the balloon was obviously what really provoked that. But I thought we missed an opportunity there. And I'm not one that likes to pit great American companies, oil companies and big pharma. We wouldn't be where we are, whatever you think about vaccinations, we wouldn't be where we are without big pharma and the speed in which they develop these vaccines and therapies. And 2, I give big oil a lot of credit. Whatever you want to say about them, should they pay more taxes? Should we have a fair tax system? Sure. But let's stop with the us versus them thing, particularly when it comes to great American companies and great manufacturers in this nation.
It is funny because, like, he's basically saying you should invest. You got 10 more years.
Yeah, 10 more years.
10 more years. Like, who does that?
That's not a good investment.
No,
necessarily.
yeah, exactly.
Unless we only have 10 more years.
Yes.
As AOC said, remember?
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.